Well, and then it was great here in Louisville, and then Heyman got here. They punished him after they ran me off. They punished him by sending him here where I wanted to be. And the first thing he did was he pissed off the regular fans because, you know, the old ladies and the kids and the people, the old guys and the people that came and got there early to get their seat every week. He moved them over away from the hard camera because he wanted all of his plants and all the amateur class students and their girlfriends across from the hard camera, because he would tell them what to scream and yell and jump up and down for, like an ECW audience. So all of a sudden, the people that used to scream and jump up and down in the right places are now during everything, just screaming and jumping up and down. And you're like, what the fuck? Wait a minute. Why are they all over this? And the regular fans who got moved over to the sides where they wouldn't be, because he wanted to send the tape to the office and it looked like all of his shit was getting over, right? When the people are screaming and jumping up and down. And so the regular fans got moved over to the sides. They couldn't get their favorite seats anymore and be on camera when they, you know, blew kisses at the baby faces. So a lot of them quit coming. Danny got pissed. And basically it changed the whole makeup of the crowd. And then it hurt because it helped fool the people in the office in Stamford into thinking that people were liking what Paul was putting on the show, and the guys that he wanted to feature, that he specifically wanted to push to the. See, I always wanted to keep my top guys as long as I could to give them the extra bit of polish, and also because until people got tired of them, why did I want to lose them, right? But since he didn't have any business interest in OVW, all he wanted to do was take the guys that he liked and push them up to the main roster as quick as possible so they would be beholden to him, and it would look like he was getting guys to the main roster quick. So he'd have the people especially jumping up and down during their segments so it would look like it got over to the TV audience so he could fool Stamford. But what it did was it ran off a lot of the regular audience. They didn't like the style of television. I heard this from a number of the fans because it was like ECW, and he was booking for Philly and Louisville, so they didn't like it. And the ratings went down, and the spot shows went to shit because he didn't promote them at all because he didn't care. And then finally, when he'd served his penance and they fucking let him go back to wherever he went to, then Al Snow took over, I think, at that point, which at least he was more worried about OVW's business. But yeah, Heyman in about 6 months tanked the fucking company.
Did you watch those shows? I mean, that was like CM Punk, Ken Kennedy.
No,
was that
cool? I didn't watch for a year and a half. And then it was January of 2007. I said, all right, because I was sitting in front of the TV when OVW came on. I said, I'm going to watch this and see what the fuck they've done to it. And within 20 minutes, I was violently angry. They had that fucking guy Roadkill, right? Grabbed somebody and held them in front of him while he was cutting this awful promo to one of the baby faces that just couldn't figure out how to just take this fucking poor innocent victim out of this guy's hands and just beat him up. It was horribly staged. Then they had a deal where the fucking heels were fooled into running out after the baby faces and were tripped and fell into something that was purported to be cow shit and rolled around in it. Then they had a women's lingerie pillow fight, something in the ring. I got so fucking violently mad at what they had done to the program, because this was none of Danny Day. I don't know who was booking it then. I'm not blaming anybody, but it was all WWF influence. After I had beat my head against the wall and deprived myself of everything, including pretty much a personal life for 5 years, to obsessively make Gilligan's Island, Louisville, where it was the only place in the world that fucking wrestling was taken seriously and we had a great product, to see that, I took 5 Xanaxes. I turned my couch over in my TV room in a violent rage. It flipped twice and almost went out the picture window. I fucking ranted and raved and broke some shit in the garage and went to sleep on the Xanax. I woke up the next afternoon, called Bolin, told him I was going to kill everybody involved, went back to sleep and woke up on Monday. And that's when I concocted the plan that Danny Davis and I entered into, where it was time for the contract to come up. I was working for TNA. I still owned part of OVW. I said, Danny, I don't want your money, but I do not want to have anything to do with this fucking company anymore after that television program I saw. So we figured out a way that we convinced the WWF office, and John Laurinaitis in particular, that I had gone out of my mind. I was insane. I had a grudge against everybody. Danny and I had fallen out, and unless I got my part of the company bought back at a fair price, I was going to go to the internet and spill everything I knew about everybody and slander everybody. I sent a fucking 4-page fax that was written as it got increasingly farther into the thing. It was written in increasingly more erratic handwriting to Danny about how they had killed wrestling in Louisville, which was entirely my opinion. It was legitimate that they had. And fucking faxed that to him so he could show it to him as proof. And they advanced him the money to fucking buy me out at a fair price. And then because they goddamn fucking fucked Danny months later and pulled the fucking deal and sent everybody to Florida, he never actually had to pay that money back. So,
wow.
So John Laurinaitis was, it was a Memphis angle. That's when they first got convinced I was crazy. I was so fucking mad at what their influence had done to the wrestling business in Louisville that at that point, I probably would have driven over somebody with my car.
Well, let me ask you, you obviously weren't watching, but you were hearing things from different people. You said earlier, the Heyman era was different, but at least it was well put together TV for Heyman style wrestling. What have you heard?
No, that's another thing. See, I would write a format that was timed to the 15 second. Everything was 15 seconds or 15, 30, 45, 60 or quantities therein. And Danny was the director and switched the cameras and faded to black and played the music and everything. So everything was right in front of him. He did everything himself from his chair. He kept the time on the program. And then we would get together for about an hour afterwards and drop in the commercials that I'd done the voiceovers for and provided the copy for the chyrons and the graphics and etc. And if the taping was over at 10 o'clock, Danny'd be out the door at 11:30. Show was done. Fucking Paul, he finally had to tell him, motherfucker, I'm not going to stay here till 6 o'clock in the morning, because Paul would try to do the same thing. And luckily we had gotten the digital equipment by then, because you couldn't have done this beforehand when we were shooting on Super VHS. But he would just shoot everything with the basic outline of a format, and then he'd try to put it together afterwards. And it'd be there all fucking night, because the next day, Paul was supposed to fly to Georgia for Deep South, because they did their shows on Wednesdays. But he would either stay up all night doing the post-production or call a meeting that he was after the taping at OVW, where he was there so late that he could call him the next morning and say, it was so late, I couldn't make the flight, so he didn't have to go to Georgia, because it was a lost fucking cause and he knew it. But Danny finally had to say, motherfucker, I'm not going to do fucking hours of post-production. What the fuck is this? Because he was used to having everything done and overdone. I was an over-preparer. Paul didn't prepare at all.
Well, that's the Heyman era. What did you hear about the Tommy Dreamer era when he was booking?
Nobody understood what the fuck was going on. I like Tommy. I don't have a problem with him. It was just a brief period of time, but they just handed it to him. And he started a bunch of murder mysteries without even knowing himself who the fuck it was. He had a mystery when I was off for the 6 weeks there before I finally had my final break. Where's Cornette? I said, all right. Where is Cornette? So I don't know. I figured you'd want to finish it. What the fuck? That's like a guy's got a headlock on you. You call one tackle, drop down, you finish it and shoot him off. What the fuck? Right? So... But anyway, that was that's what happened to OVW between 2005 and 2007, when I divested myself of my interest, because it was so embarrassing. And it was not Danny Davis's fault. That's when he got to the point shortly thereafter that where he would just go in his office, not turn the monitor on, close the door, and do all the commission business and all the paperwork. And as long as there were enough people to keep the doors open, he didn't care what the fuck they did. Because if he watched it, he'd hit the ring and beat the fuck out of everybody.